Hello, flight simmers. This week, Miltech, in collaboration with Blackbird Simulations, released their MH60 Black Hawk. And spoiler alert, it's glorious. Now, I've been waiting for a good Black Hawk module for a long time, so I snatched this up as soon as it became available online. Unfortunately, that was about 10 PM, and I'd worked the next day, so I only got to try it out briefly before I had to go to bed. I'm just not that rock and roll. First impressions when he loads the thing up is that someone really went all out with their remove before flight tags. But let's step back for a second and admire this thing. The model and the livery look pretty damn good. Despite the mysterious black van that just drove straight through the helicopter and tried to run me over, nice work Lobo, let's pull all these tags out so we can get flying. Blackbird Simulations, of course, made the Chinook that shipped with MSFS 2024 and can be used in career mode. Miltech made their own Chinook for MSFS 2020, which is also available in 2024, as well as the V-22 Osprey, which is one of my all-time favourite aircraft and modules for this flight sim. So this MH60 has pedigree from two well-regarded developers. I just want to stop and admire the iridescent effect on the lens on the FLIR camera. That's so cool. There's also a bunch of clickable hotspots on the outside. I'm guessing this is for external power. We have the side door with someone inside, no doubt doing something very important. And at the back we have these things. I'm honestly not sure what they're for. My guess it would be to do with folding the tail in. Let's put them back where we found them. And there she is, ready to fly. Or at least she will be once we start the engines. Now we're inside, we can admire the cockpit, and as you can see, there's a lot of buttons. Some are inoperative, but most seem to do things. And if we look behind us, we can see the cargo area. You can make the co-pilot visible, but he's a little bit static and it kind of creeps me out. Typically, I like to work out the startup procedure myself. However, there's a lot of switches that need turning in the right order, so I'd recommend following the checklist, at least to begin with. It does take a while to go through the whole process, so let's skip ahead a little. Okay, now we're up and running, let's get this thing in the air. The MH60 has an AFCS, or Assisted Flight Control System, so you don't need much control input to take off, just raise a collective and use a cyclic to stop you drifting. You shouldn't need much, if any, pedal input, as the auto trim should keep you going straight. This also means if you're new to helicopters or just find them difficult to control, then this could be exactly what you're looking for. But straight and level flight is easy enough. Let's make things a bit more interesting.
Power!
That's your co-pilot, or crew chief, I'm not entirely sure, but they do tend to get a bit panicky when I do this sort of thing. I was at the Royal International Air Tattoo a couple of weeks ago and saw Black Hawks doing these dives straight down, then swooping up before they reach the ground. So I thought, how could I make that cooler? And of course the answer was to do it in the Grand Canyon. As you pull back though, you can hear the rotors trying to overcome that enormous downwards momentum. And levelling out doesn't mean you stop going down, so you really need to bring that collective up so you don't slap straight into the ground below. Flying a helicopter with AFCS is quite different to flying smaller helicopters. The controls don't need the same constant intensive focus to keep it flying it straight and level. They're much more forgiving, as the AFCS handles a lot of the workload for you, freeing you up to manage the 100 or so other buttons you may need to use. However, the cost is that they respond slightly differently than in a conventional helicopter. Turns definitely need to be assisted with pedals. If you just bank the helicopter, it will move in the direction that you bank towards, but the nose will take much longer to come around. But while AFCS makes regular flying easier, it doesn't make it boring. You might put some extra collective in for tight turns, as there's a lot of weight travelling in one direction quite quickly, so changing the direction of the force requires some extra energy. But that's enough of this canyon run. There's no Womp-Rat sized target for me to bullseye, so let's climb out. And this thing can climb pretty rapidly. There, set her down on that rock over there. I think it's called Butte, correct me if I'm wrong. If you watched my video on the career mode cargo mission, you may remember me lamenting the absence of a gauge to help with hovering. Well, this has one. Just click the mode button on the PFD and voila. Just make sure you don't neglect the collective while you're doing it, or you risk crashing into the side of the butte. When you start to get close to the ground, the co-pilot will start reading out your height above the ground to help guide you down.
20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet.
Now we're down, I'll apply the parking brake, which was apparently already on. An optional extra when you buy this module is the Mission Hub, and I highly recommend it. You can access it from the toolbar up here. Not only does it have a bunch of missions for you to fly, but a facility to create your own. I've not played with this yet, but surely will in due course. So without further ado, let's load up a mission. This one looks fun, a sea rescue. Now, I have flown this mission previously, and I know I'm going to run into bad weather, so I'm just going to turn on the de-icing first. I'd also recommend you familiarise yourself with how to turn the winch on, because only a fool would fly all the way out there without knowing how to operate the winch when they got there. But I'll show you that when we get there. Okay, let's be heroes. Up ahead is the bad weather I mentioned. There's a cloud of really bad visibility right in front of us. We're going to have to fly on instruments to get through it, but we can also turn on the FLIR camera to help us find our way. The FLIR, or forward-looking infrared camera, can see through the clouds, so you shouldn't fly into the side of any hidden mountains. But your primary focus should still be on keeping the horizon, vertical speed, and course in check. It's very easy to get disorientated when the visibility is this bad, so just follow your instruments until it clears. As it's raining, I'm going to turn on my wipers. I still can't see anything, but it just seems the right thing to do. Now we're out of the clouds, and I can see the target up ahead. Time to slow down and descend. I've also enabled hover mode on the PFD to help me hold a stable hover when I get there. There is an auto hover button, but either I've not figured out how it works or it doesn't work yet, so I'm just going to hold the hover manually for now. However, with the AFCS, this really isn't too hard. Time to turn on the winch. You need to set the power switch to on and the hoist switch to down.
Hoist coming down. Cable down.
Unfortunately, when I did the playback, the target wasn't visible, even though I'd restarted the mission, so you just have to imagine that there's a ship below the helicopter on the external view.
Survivor attached. Raising hoist. Hoist coming up.
Now the survivors on board, it's time to get them back to dry land. And that, Asobo, is how you make a sea rescue mission. coming to land at a different and much closer airfield than the one we left from. The observant among you will notice that the weather is much worse in the external view. This is a quirk of the playback, but it makes it a bit more dramatic. I could add heroic music, but that would likely mean licensing issues.
Steady. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. 5 feet.
Once we're on the ground, we want to unlock the tail wheel so we can steer. And now we just taxi to parking. Taxiing is nice and smooth in this helicopter. Just a little forward stick and a small amount of collective, and it will just taxi without any issues. The Miltech MH60 has really set a new standard for MSFS helicopters. While it's not completely full fidelity, it's certainly the best that I've seen. The flight model feels nice, it looks great, and I'm just completely smitten with it. Miltech have announced that there are compatibility issues with the SU3 beta, and recommend sticking with SU2 for now. Hopefully these will be resolved for SU3's general release, but it's something to be aware of.
5 feet.
As I said at the start, I've only just scratched the surface of this helicopter. I feel like there's a lot more to discover. The systems for one thing, all those buttons to figure out. There are 3 variants of the helicopter to choose from, and a bunch of missions I haven't tried yet. If you haven't picked this up yet, I highly recommend it. With that, there's nothing left to say but have fun and fly safe.